aggravated what are already acutely deprived communities.
So you've been warning for some time. What have you been doing about it to try and take the sting out of it?
Well, it's not what I've been doing about it, it's what the Mayor of London's been doing about it. He's in charge of the city. I'm just an individual within it. Where is Boris when you need him? He's on holiday in the Algarve, reading Latin novels, no doubt, brushing up on his Latin. I don't know where he is. He's missing without leave, and he should be here sorting out what is the most acute crisis of inner cities. And it's not a black issue. This is a black and white issue, as Enfield showed yesterday. There is an acute issue of crisis of confidence between relations between the Met and some of London's communities, and he should be here overseeing that repair.
You say that you've been warning for some time, that you've been blogging about it for some time, so you've obviously been aware of the situation. Obviously you must have tried to speak to the Mayor about it. You must have been trying to speak to the police to represent your community. What have they been saying to you?
Mayor Boris Johnson doesn't speak to Lee Jasper, as you know, apparently I don't represent anybody. I'm, you know, been attacked by the media, such as yourselves and others, as being completely disreputable. So Lee Jasper doesn't have a voice in London
We're giving you a voice now, Mr. Jasper.
Well, I'm open for Boris to give me that call so I can come in and tell him what needs to be done about this situation.
Tell him now
but
via
I won't
Sky.
be holding my breath.
Okay, tell him now via
Boris,
Sky what needs to be done.
Boris, if you're listening to this, I suggest you get off your big blonde butt and get back to London, because we've got a problem here that you need sorting out.
Okay, that's not really going to help though, is it? You're just being a little bit offensive towards him without actually saying how you could solve the situation, or at least move some way towards it.
Okay, well, if he wants to move towards it, how about this? They're cutting youth projects in this area, so we've got lots of alienated youth. Why don't we take the criminal assets of all the drug dealers in Brixton, which amounts to many millions of pounds, and instead of leaving it in the government treasury, give it back to the communities who are trying to fight crime in the area. That's what Boris Johnson could do. It was £1 billion nationally that was confiscated from criminal assets last year, 120 million in this borough alone. If we had 120 million pounds to open youth centres that the government is now closing, we wouldn't see as many youths alienated and seduced into the kind of activities that we saw last night.
And what forms of communication have you had with the police in the area?
I'm in good communications with the police. Funny enough, yesterday we had a brilliant festival here, Brixton Splash. Did you all come to Brixton Splash? Yeah. It was a great event. There wasn't any trouble, there wasn't any problems. We worked well with them in the local area. But you see, what happens in Tottenham affects everybody. It doesn't just affect the local people in Tottenham. When people die in suspicious deaths in custody, it affects us here in Brixton. It affects people in other areas of London. And so it's not contained in terms of a response to a single area. And I think the whole of London are now deeply concerned, given what we've seen on the front page of the Times and the Guardian, that there was something dreadfully wrong with the initial police account of the murder of Police Duggan. That bullet, it would seem, according to reports in the Guardian, did not come from Mr. Duggan's gun. It was a police issue bullet. Now, if that is the case, then Boris needs to get on a Concorde back to London, because if that proves to be true, then there'll be a dramatic response, I think, from people across London who want to know and demand what the hell happened to Mark Duggan on that day.
So what is the difference in policing in Brixton and Tottenham, so that we see what happened? There's been obviously some pockets of problems in Brixton overnight, but nothing on the scale that we saw in Tottenham. What is the difference in policing levels there and policing approaches where you are compared to Tottenham, do you think, to see what we saw at the weekend?
You know what? At least in here, right, we've got communication. We can communicate with them. There are regular meetings in which things can be discussed. There's no surprises for them. There's few surprises for us. And I think effective communication goes to the root of this matter. Isn't it a disgrace that if you die in police custody, that an officer of the Metropolitan Police Service doesn't come to your house and simply express his condolences, gives you a commitment to tell you that at least we will work, 24/7 to providing an explanation, that the IPCC doesn't come and then say, furthermore, we guarantee this is what we're going to do. Here we had a family who lost a loved one in deeply suspicious circumstances, and nobody, and this is significant, nobody felt it was important to pay the family the modicum of respect it would take to go round, pay their condolences, and tell them exactly how they're going to investigate this case. That is completely unacceptable. If a dog dies in a police car, the police commissioner comes out and says he's going to launch an investigation into which officer had the fool temerity to leave 2 dogs in a car with his windows rolled up and they suffocated. If he can come on TV in relation to dogs dying in London, he sure as hell can come on TV and explain why it is black men are dying in police custody.
How offensive is it, though, do you think, Mr. Jasper, for the family of Mr. Duggan, who wanted a peaceful protest on Saturday? That was hijacked by thugs who burnt people's houses down.
Well, you see, you will want to paint them all as thugs and criminals and ne'er-do-wells and everybody, you know, and want to discount the politics of it. I think the family had a dignified protest. They weren't at the scenes of the worst violence, but those people that were, or some of them, are just completely alienated from society. Now, you expect, and lots of central media expect, people who can't go to get school because their education maintenance allowance is now dropped, can't get employed by anybody in the city, forced to work for very low wages in the retail sector, live in crap housing, quite frankly, with a housing shortage, and face no prospects of unemployment, to be happy in their misery. It's simply not going to happen, and the government needs to get off his arse, as well as Boris, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, needs to come down here with Cameron and understand the real crisis that faces the majority of young people around here. No jobs, no opportunity, no housing. That all equals frustration.
Yeah, but they still don't burn their community down, do they? And that's what we saw in parts.
They do.
If I could just ask you a question, Mr. Jasper, and that's what we saw in Tottenham at the weekend. And there were people who live within that community, and they had to flee in what they were wearing. There were people who had to, according to the newspapers today, beg for their child's life so that the car wouldn't be petrol bombed. You can't condone that, surely.
Nobody condones that. Let me tell you something. Nobody here condones violence. People don't automatically wake up one day and say, I'm going to burn down Curry's for a laugh. I'm going to burn down Foot Locker for a laugh. It's part of a process of frustration that is building up. And what I'm saying to you is that we've got inner cities that are like pressure cooker politics. Their steam is building up as unemployment rises, as disadvantage rises. And when that steam builds up, it has to have somewhere to go. I don't condone the violence. I worked hard last night. I was on the streets till 2 or 3 in the morning trying to prevent that very violence. And I have a track record of doing so. But I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. I can see that poor communities like this one in Brixton and surrounding areas in inner city London are in pain under the cuts to public services, the lack of opportunities that they got. What we see in our areas is the death of hope and aspiration. And when a community loses its ambition and hope, its ability to have faith in progressing itself and its family in the future, then the politics of no hope take over, the politics of desperation take over, the politics of cynicism take over. So yes, we condemn the violence that took place yesterday, but we condemn the economic violence of this government that has led to huge levels of unemployment in the inner city areas and a closure off of opportunities for education and young people wanting to take the degrees. That is a violence that is not recognized. When we break out in rage because of the pressure that we're under, that's the violence that gets the media priority. We say focus on the cause, not the symptoms. The violence yesterday was a symptom. The cause was the complete alienation of inner city areas that are being left to rot in levels of unemployment that are frankly criminal and for which somebody should be held to account.
OK, Mr. Jasper, thank you for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. News at sky.com, 84501. Do let us know what you think. Jane Dougal is standing by in